As Alexander Downer mentioned yesterday, we have in Australia and New Zealand a proud history of political innovation. In 1893 and 1902, we became the first countries in the world to give women the right to vote in national elections. The trailblazing nature of this political achievement is evocatively captured in that banner. But that's the well-known story, and today I want to tell you about the frequently forgotten history of when that achievement was dramatically curtailed. And the story begins with this astonishing definition of a married woman under disability. This classification of a married woman is taken from these nationality laws, which were first practiced during the First World War and were then formally introduced into Australian and New Zealand legislatures in the early 1920s. In addition to defining a married woman under disability, these new laws determined that Australian and New Zealand women would no longer hold a right to their nationality independently of their husband. The impact for women is registered in the headlines that follow this slide. Women who married foreign men were now automatically stripped of their own nationality and either rendered aliens in the country of their birth, or in cases where women did not even gain the nationality of their husband, they were rendered stateless. Legally defined as stateless persons or as aliens, women such as Miriam Soljak, whose picture you see next, lost all the rights attached to their former nationality, including political, employment and social welfare rights. So Miriam, for example, completely disappears off the electoral roll records for some 12 years after she lost her nationality. And the archive is in fact full of stories like Miriam's. To take just one further example, this next article describes how in 1933 a Sydney barrister was representing alone some 50 Australian women who had become stateless by the simple act of marriage to an American man. But inflamed by the blatant discrimination, Australian and New Zealand women were quick to launch a formidable campaign to regain their right to an independent nationality. They coordinated their activism across boundaries, state boundaries, across the Tasman Sea, and even lobbied at imperial conferences in London and at League of Nations meetings in The Hague. The telegram that follows, for example, was one of dozens sent from women's organisations across Australia in order to inundate the Prime Minister's office when the issue was brought before Parliament in the mid-1920s. By the mid-1930s, these women activists had already achieved an important measure of success when male legislators found themselves unable to ignore the issue. They resolved to legislate ahead of the rest of the British Empire and against the desires of the British government. With the introduction of the amending legislation, Australian and New Zealand women who had lost their nationality through marriage were now able to hold on to the rights that were tied to their former nationality. So women like Miriam were able to vote again. While full equality between men and women in nationality law would not be achieved until the late 1940s, these developments demonstrated that change was possible. It was possible even when politicians like Francis Joseph Rolleston here had declared otherwise. From the mid-1930s, the Australian and New Zealand governments were once again boasting of their proud record on women's rights. As one parliamentarian described, "In Australia, at least, we shall meet the wish of our womenfolk to be treated on an equality basis." And yet, this history of Australasian women's nationality rights has been frequently forgotten. And I think that remembering it is just so significant, not least because if we zoom out of Australasia for a little while, discrimination against women in nationality laws is not a problem confined to history. It continues to impact upon the lives of women in over 60 countries, and in 27 of those countries, that discrimination does not allow a woman to pass her nationality onto her child on the same equal basis as men. This form of discrimination has been recently identified by the UNHCR as one of the root causes of the global problem of statelessness. It's a reason why women and children are disproportionately represented in the figure you see on the screen. And it's the reason why the UNHCR has set an ambitious goal of eradicating statelessness by 2024. That's within just 10 years. Their global action plan of eradicating statelessness includes the priority of eliminating gender discrimination in nationality laws. This is, of course, a truly, truly ambitious goal. And to help the UNHCR meet that target, I think we need to put the spotlight back on the history of Australasian women's nationality rights. Because in that history, I think we have a very powerful example of how women activists, like Miriam, once fought to ensure that our politics reflected what was best in us and not what was worse. They fought to ensure that our politicians recognised the possibility for change, even when that possibility seemed inconceivable. And I hope that my write-up of this history can help induce the Australian and New Zealand governments to increase their role in the UNHCR's campaign and continue the Australasian tradition of trailblazing. Thank you.